watch my mouth, maybe get some hand gestures, but that's how I roll. I first want to start with acknowledging the significance of this conference. This is the third or fourth year that I've participated, and it has been fruitful. That is, after this conference, in the past years, communities that heretofore had not engaged with our organization did. And we made things happen. That is, tangible yield came from this conference presentation. So I have hats off to Robin and his team for convening us, because this is definitely an opportunity for us to share resources. So my name is Galen Gondolfi, and I'm with an organization called Justine Petersen. So we're named literally after a person, Justine M. Petersen, and we further her legacy of financial asset building. We're based in St. Louis, but we serve 73 counties in Illinois, essentially everything south of Chicagoland or everything south of Interstate 74. We have office operations in Peoria at the Minority Business Development Center, at City Hall or the municipal building in Springfield, and at the Ink Spot Incubator in Decatur with the Decatur Black Chamber. We further Justine's legacy, and she was a social worker who very much was avant-garde in promoting asset building as a way to empower communities. And she was a pioneer in community development in St. Louis. She worked with local banks on capitalizing loan pools and creating affordable mortgage products. So we essentially are a hybrid of social work and banking. I'm going to put social work on the left politically and banking on the right, and we bring those together. The younger types in our office call it a mashup, but we very much bring those two worlds together. And what does that look like? Well, we started 25 years ago as a HUD certified counseling agency, which we still are, which means we promote people becoming first-time homeowners. And if you already have a HUD certified counseling entity or counselor with your county, with your EDC, with your municipality, great. If anything, we'd love to work with them, because we do a lot of what we call credit building, and we offer credit building products and services. We offer situations where we can actually loan money to pay off collection debt on a credit report, which means get rid of a collection, create a positive trade line by paying that loan back, report it to credit bureaus, and essentially raise that credit score. So 25 years ago, we began as a HUD certified counseling agency. 20 years ago, we started microlending. We're actually one of the nation's largest microlenders for the SBA, the U.S. Small Business Administration. The SBA microloan program caps out at $50,000. It's not offered by banks. It's only offered by nonprofit intermediaries, that is, organizations like Justine Petersen. We're also a CDFI, a Community Development Financial Institution. And I'll be honest with you, there's only a handful downstate. They're mostly clustered in Chicago. And CDFIs can do amazing things. Through our CDFI, which is non-depository, we essentially seek investments from banks primarily, but also foundations and municipalities, and we create loan funds. And why today is so timely, that is February in the spring of this year, is that many municipalities, many county entities are looking at what to do with their ARPA money. I call it ARPA, some people call it ARP, but you know what I'm talking about, American Recovery Program Act dollars. And right now, 2 counties and 3 municipalities are working with us right here in Central Illinois on using ARPA dollars to help seed a loan fund. And what do I mean by that? In Decatur, we just had Buena Vista Bank sign on to a $250,000 investment in a loan fund, an asset building loan fund, where we're going to loan money to Decatur residents to build credit scores, to become homeowners, to help small businesses, to raise credit scores. And we're using ARPA dollars as a loan loss reserve and also to buy down the interest rate. I'm going a little bit in the weeds here, but I want to say that I feel I have a captive audience today, and that is everyone out there in Illinois who has access to ARPA funds. I'd like to have a discussion with you about how to creatively use those as to seed a loan fund that would leverage private investment. And what do I mean by that? I mean banks, I mean philanthropic investment, and I also mean truly private investment. As a CDFI, that's our role, a community development financial institution. We're not a bank, but we are a Department of Treasury certified entity that's all about deploying capital in communities that have historically been under-resourced. What do we mean by that? We mean low to moderate income communities. We mean Black communities. We mean entrepreneurs of color, women entrepreneurs, veteran entrepreneurs. Robin, how long am I allowed to pontificate before I have to move on?
I'm going to have to cut you off about 3:45.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay.
I wish we had more time.
Oh, no. But so sounds like I can blab a little bit more. So I quickly want to talk about this idea of credit building, and all of us today thinking about creating 700 credit score municipalities, 700 credit score counties. It's not impossible. It's really not impossible. And credit scores are the ticket, if you will, the fundamental asset to building a trajectory, a lifetime of wealth building. So if anything, the racial equity gap can be addressed firsthand, I believe, by raising credit scores. The other thing I want to mention is Justine PETERSEN recently launched a loan fund where we attempt to refinance high interest rate car loans. Listen, payday loans aren't the only thing killing LMI neighborhoods and actually rural neighborhoods or rural communities. That is, people are paying out the wazoo for high interest rate car loans. And not only is the car note expensive, but there's also obviously the insurance that goes along with it. People can pay in the state of Illinois 38% for a car loan. So we know in several instances in many communities in Illinois, people are paying more for their car loan and car insurance than for housing. And that's essentially a depreciating asset, right? A vehicle. I call it a mobile home. They could be buying a home, right? But instead they have a home on wheels and it's depreciating. So again, I just want to give a pitch out there in my remaining minutes that if you're interested in bringing that kind of product to your community, to your county, because you see people driving around with expensive, I mean, you look at it and you think, I'm wondering what they're paying for that monthly. Well, we can maybe help, create getting that money back into the community, right? So much is lost in terms of predatory interest in our most vulnerable community. So thanks for being here today. Again, I want to shower accolades to Robin and his team, because previously when I've been on, part of this conference, it's yielded results and people have called me from throughout the state. And it's very exciting to know that this is an opportunity to reach out.
Well, thank you, Galen. And that's wonderful to hear. We're going to jump right into our next speaker. Jonathan McGee is Deputy Director of Regional Economic Development for the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. Jonathan.
Thank you so much, Robin. And it's so great to be here with all of our colleagues here in the rural part of the state. The Illinois Institute for Rural Affairs has a special place in my heart because when I started here at DCEO, we were in person. And two, I make it a point every year to make sure my team is available and participating in this program. And again, many of you all may know that the Illinois Institute for Rural Affairs is actually a community navigator, and Chris Merritt and Sandy are great partners, as well as everyone on the Governor's Rural Affairs Council. So it's just so exciting to be here with you all today. I will share a PowerPoint really quick, briefly, if folks can see this. Can folks see it, Robin?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome. Thank you. I'll run through this really quick. I really want to have a discussion today and answer questions, but I want to talk a little bit about what we have on the horizon, what we've accomplished, and what the governor's proposed in his budget, and how you all can get prepared. So again, Illinois is a state of service. And really the regional economic development team and here at DCEO, we can help with a variety of support, whether it's business development, attraction, retention, intergovernmental coordination, connecting with workforce partners, as well as small business development partners. Really, we are the face of DCEO statewide here in the regional economic development team. And really my job and my team's job is really to help you thread the needle on economic recovery, as well as the future of economic development, especially in rural Illinois and downstate. So I just want to talk about some of the FY22 highlights that we had at DCEO. We announced over $75 million in workforce programs, awarded over $250 million to businesses in need, made outreach to over 150,000 small businesses, put out $10 million for tourism, over 900+ million to local units of government, and over 100+ million in rebuild capital, as well as supporting families through our Office of Community Assistance. And so, we'll dive into some of those programs and what will be available, but wanted to talk about everything that we've done. And we saw a lot of this go downstate, but we know going into FY23, we want to see more. So again, the Bureau of Regional Economic Development is really charged with facilitating economic development in our 10 economic development regions across the state. So again, that's everything outside for you all, the Northeast and the collar counties there. And again, we have team members all across the state that stand ready to support you. I put my information here as well because I'm always reachable and always excited to meet with you all and connect. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the resources that are upcoming, as well as some of the things that we're going to propose. So many of you all are aware of our Back to Business grants, the $250 million that we're currently awarding to help with COVID-19 relief. We're actually going to put out another $50 million. We're looking for an administrator currently. That NOFO closes on the 7th. So if you know CDFIs, financial institutions that are interested, we are looking for an administrator there. But this will be for 2020 startups and businesses, again, that were not eligible for CARES funding or ARPA funding for that matter. And we know that those folks struggled as well, and that the timing of when you decide to start your business should not be an encumbrance on getting relief for your business. And so we're looking forward to launching that. Back in 2010, many of you all became aware of the state Small Business Credit Initiative, which gave birth to Advantage Illinois, which continues to be a great tool for us to use today to provide capital for folks that are creating jobs, as well as helping banks and businesses really align on access to capital, with DCL contributing a portion of that to subsidize some of that risk. And so we're going to see not just more than 300 million come into this program, but new programs roll out as well as we craft those. Many of you all saw the 20 million we put out for job training and economic development. We know workforce continues to be an issue here in the state, both upskilling, reskilling, on the job training, incumbent worker training, apprenticeships. JTED was probably the most flexible workforce dollars that we put out to date. And for those of you who didn't catch the first round, we will be looking to put out another round late this spring. We currently are going to get ready to release regional economic development planning dollars, which I know many of you all who are doing current planning are interested in. However, it will be ARPA funded. And so what we're saying is that we need you to justify, when we roll these dollars out, how has COVID impacted your economic recovery? And how will you use these regional planning dollars to chart your course for the future, right? And then on top of that, we're going to put 25 million behind implementation. So when these plans get approved, if you get awarded, we're saying we're going to put out dollars to fund that, right? And so again, when this rolls out, we want to make sure that everyone's aware. We want to make sure that my team is connecting with your folks to make sure that you all understand, just from a regional standpoint, what makes the most sense. And then of course, we've got tons of money for rental assistance, utilities, especially during the winter months. And so 325 million there that expires on May 31st. And then broadband. In rural Illinois, we know this continues to be an issue, whether it's first mile, last mile, and everything in between. And while we understand the providers are a lot of the driving factors here, that's why we said, you know what, we're going to put out 350 million rolling, NOFO, no match. That means that local units of government, you heard me correctly, can apply for broadband infrastructure dollars with no match. Because we understand that, a lot of folks don't have, right, that funding, right? That's the same that we see with EDA and some of the resources there. And so again, with any U dollars, which we'll talk about later, and our broadband dollars, there's tremendous opportunity for us to drive recovery. I just want to talk about our small business development centers who've been key in helping small businesses really think about how they pivot, and knowing that, these resources continue to grow. We added, I think 2 years ago, 7 more SBDCs. That application will come open again. And I know that we're going to be looking to make that program more accessible for folks, as we know many folks downstate lost access to those resources. I talked a little about Advantage Illinois. The Fund for Advancement Minority Enterprises falls under that program. And again, this is for our minority enterprises. So my colleague at Justine PETERSEN talked about how are we providing access to capital, gap capital, to minority enterprises that are contributing to the economy. We do that through our Advantage Illinois FAME program. I also just want to throw out here, when COVID hit, lots of businesses that didn't have online presences or couldn't open up their stores, we didn't see a lot of folks think about exporting. This is a tremendous opportunity through our Trade and Investment Office. And honestly, as we start to think about how we do more manufacturing here, in the state of Illinois, think about how we can start to ramp up some of our exports. When I think about many of the rural Illinois businesses I see, some of these products are truly unique to Illinois and can be marketing lucrative there. And so our iStep program in conjunction with SBA is one that we always try to promote and make sure folks are aware of. Our Community Navigator program, many of you all know this was not acknowledged by the Biden administration again. I'm happy to say that the Illinois Institute for Rural Affairs is a community navigator. We have over 130 organizations across the state that will provide technical assistance, outreach, and marketing in conjunction with my teams on any programs that come out of DCEO, both federally through ARPA, as well as through our state programs, because we know that folks downstate don't have the capacity, they don't have the bandwidth, and many times they're not aware, right? And there's two things I want you to leave with today: awareness and preparedness. That is what's going to set you up for success. Many folks downstate aren't receiving funds, not because it's all going to Chicago, because after GATA, it's all competitive. It's that we're not applying, right? And so what we said was, here, we're going to put navigators. We're going to put $10 million in the navigator program. We're going to extend it to June, and then we're going to roll out additional dollars, right? So that we know that everyone has access to that, and we're really meeting folks where they are. So again, we talked about our ARPA funds. Every NEU, as well as every direct entitlement, got dollars from Treasury. And I want to really talk about the final rule, which basically said that folks can claim up to 10 million in revenue replacement. For my local unit of government folks, essentially what that means is that whatever you claim as revenue replacement can be used for general provision of government service. So essentially, you don't have to use the calculator. You report that you want to collect up to 10 million. You want to do infrastructure. You want to do constructions of schools and hospitals, roads and bridges, government administration, environmental remediation, utilities. You can do that. So this is where we really need to think regionally, right? A lot of things I hear is, well, the county is not going to support this, or this is a city project. No, we need to think regionally here. At the state of Illinois, our dollars are limited, right? And so a lot of what I'm trying to do is help facilitate what makes the most sense for communities, because these are once in a lifetime dollars. And so we brought on Crow Horwath to help communities think through, what makes sense for them, what is eligible. But I encourage you all, I implore you all, water, roads, and sewers, they're great, right? But we saw the infrastructure bill come from the federal government. And so we really need to think about, how can we be revolutionary, right? Not just evolutionary in our approach. And we know in downstate, we can't keep doing the same thing we did, that got us here, because that won't get us there, right? Which is the future. And so as we think about all of the exciting things that are coming down from clean energy, as well as EVs, as well as all of the funding that the governor proposed in his budget, I did want to show you guys a snapshot of what we're advocating here at DCEO. Many of you all know we've become more competitive through our Prime Sites program, through our REV program, and through our Blue Collar Jobs Act program. And we're looking to reauthorize EDGE, because we know how important that is for business development and attraction, putting more dollars in small business support, and trying to implement CJA so that we can have a clean energy economy for the future and workforce for the future. And of course, investing in all of you, communities, and ensuring that we have the workers and we're attracting the workers to create, the jobs of tomorrow. So again, sneak peek, if you guys haven't seen this, we're proposing, again, $350 million in increased capital for small businesses, $5 million for targeted business support. Also looking at SBIR, STTR programs through the feds. We also heard you. Many of you said, you know what, Jonathan, we can't match the EDA. So the governor's office signed off on putting out a rolling NOFO potentially in the budget so that we can match federal dollars. So that now we can make sure that we're not the sixth state when it comes to EDA funding, but we can be closer to the first state. And then again, when we talk about EVs and we talk about everything there, we want to be the EV capital of the nation. And I believe that this budget will get us there. Last but not least, again, $200 million to implement CJA, $28 million to help Illinois communities transition to clean energy resources. We want to bring 1 million EVs to the road by 2030. Our rebuild main streets and downtown corridors, I hope many of you applied. We want to reload that. We know it wasn't enough. And again, broadband, which is something that we know is pivotal in this part of the state. But the exciting thing that I want to share with you that I think is key is we listened and we heard you. ETIP. Everyone's like, Jonathan, when is ETIP coming back? I saw the IMA got a line item. I'm not a member. We believe we should have an opportunity to administer these programs. We heard you, right? 38 million for ETIP. We've never had this much money. So when we say advocate on behalf of these resources so that you all can drive your workforce development in your areas, we mean it. And part of my job is to make sure that we facilitate that. And so again, with that being said, I want to leave you all with, we hope that you continue to invest in Illinois. We hope that you continue to support the work that the governor is doing and this administration is doing. And again, I am excited to see what the potential is for rural Illinois, especially with all of these federal funds and state funds and one of the most progressive budgets we've seen in the state of Illinois history. So with that, I'm looking forward to the conversation. And Robin, again, appreciate the chance to join everyone today. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much, Jonathan. I really appreciate that. We're going to be having our other two speakers present, and then we're going to have a short Q&A afterwards. So please send your questions to me via chat, or your questions to everyone via chat, and I'll make sure that we try and raise them as we get going. Now, if we don't have time to do a full Q&A session after this, I'll make sure that the questions get directed to the speakers that might be able to answer them well. So let's move on to Mary Warren with the USDA Rural Development in Illinois with the Business Cooperative and Energy Programs. Mary.
Thank you, Robin, and it's nice to be back. I think I was traveling last year, so I didn't get an opportunity to present at the Rural Affairs Conference, and I look forward to hopefully next year in person. It's always a great conference to reconnect with our partners and reconnect with and meet new community leaders throughout the state. So I'm going to give a brief presentation on a few of our business programs that we have in rural development. I can't do all of them because I just did a count and we now have 21. I think the last time I counted we had 15. So we'd be here until the clock struck midnight if I went over all of them. So I wouldn't dare do that to you. But I'm going to talk about a few of our flagship programs. And then at the end of my PowerPoint, I have all of the programs that we do administer under business programs. They're all listed and they are all hyperlinked to the appropriate website. So that'll be a good resource for anyone on this Zoom call that wants to learn more about all of our other programs. This picture here in the background, that is that's a project example of one of the programs I'm going to talk about, the Rural Economic Development Loan and Grant Program. This is a facility located in Shelbyville, and they worked with IHI Turbo America, who they put these superchargers in these fancy cars so they go super fast. So they've worked with IHI Turbo. I believe they've loaned them $5 million total at 0% on 10-year terms. So I think they almost tripled their employment throughout the years that they've been expanding and utilizing our programs through Shelby Electric. The first program, and it's our flagship program, it's called the Business and Industry Loan Guarantee Program. It did get revamped back in October of 2020. Rural Development grouped the Business and Industry Program, the Rural Energy for America Program, loan guarantees, our Water and Waste, and our Community Facilities Guarantee Programs all under one regulation. The point to that was to make the programs more user-friendly for lenders. So the rules, the population thresholds, all of the things that they could make the same, they did under that one RD guarantee regulation. I don't have it listed on here, but the population threshold for our guarantee programs and most of our business programs is population of 50,000 or less. And then in those areas such as Springfield, Peoria, Champaign-Urbana, Chicago, the 50,000 population, it's also contiguous to the urban area. So for example, Savoy, there on the south side of Champaign-Urbana is not 50,000 population, but the proximity is so close to that urban area that it is actually ineligible. So we do have a map that you can plug in your address and find out if your specific location is in an eligible area or not. So the B&I program, it's essentially for lenders to offer loan guarantees to their businesses that they work with. It's beneficial for multiple reasons. The loan does not go, the guarantee percent does not go against the lender's legal lending limit. So that allows them to put more dollars out on the street for these businesses in the rural area that really need financing options. It provides a longer term for our borrower. We don't do balloon payments, so that also helps the borrower, especially now with, well, I know interest rates are rising now, but they've been extremely low these last few years. So it's really allowed these borrowers to lock in some really competitive interest rates by providing this loan guarantee. The maximum that we can do is $25 million. And this next bullet point, the guarantee percentage, it is an 80% guarantee for that lender, no matter the dollar amount. That was one of the big changes with the 1RD regulation. The guarantee percentage used to tier down the higher the dollar amount, but they changed that. So if you borrow or if you loan out $1 million, you get an 80% guarantee on that $1 million. If you do the maximum of 25 million, you get that same 80%. There are fees that go along with this program. It helps us fund the program. The origination fee is 3% on that guaranteed amount. And then every January, the lender has to pay an annual renewal fee of 50 basis points on that unpaid principal. These next few slides are going to be some examples of what we've done recently. This is Wilson Nurturies up in Hampshire, Illinois. They also have facilities in the Chicagoland area, but our funds were utilized here because it's in the rural area. They refinanced $2.85 million of their debt, which really reduced their annual debt service, frees up cash flow. They're a wholesale commercial nursery and distribution yard. They grow and sell a full line of exterior landscaping plants, shrubs, and trees, as you can see there with my pictures. This project helped retain 97 jobs, which is really, I think, the key point with any project example that I'm going to show you. Job retention, job creation, that's really what we like to see with our projects. This next one is Farm King. They are headquartered out of Macomb, but they have facilities, one in Burlington, Iowa, and then 5 or 6 throughout Illinois, in and around the Macomb area. They are a farm, big box kind of farm, indoor, outdoor store. They applied and received, their lender did a $16 million business and industry loan guarantee to restructure their debt and also provide them some working capital. Again, same concept as the last example we saw, reducing that annual debt service frees up cash flow and helps them retain their employees, expand if they want to, and they actually employ, or this project helped retain 218 jobs throughout all of their locations. The next program I'm going to talk about is the Rural Energy for America program. We refer to it as REAP, and it is a grant and a loan guarantee program to help finance and purchase the installation of renewable energy systems and energy efficiency improvements. And in order for it to be an energy efficiency improvement for a grant, you have to be replacing some old inefficient equipment. If you're doing a renewable energy system, you can just install a brand new one. Ag producers and rural small businesses are the 2 eligible applicants. To be an ag producer, you must be engaged. Your income must be at least 50% from ag production. And rural small businesses, again, it's that population of 50,000 or less. And then we follow the Small Business Administration guidelines for that definition of small. The grant can be no more than 25% of the eligible project costs. And then you'll see there I have the maximum grant amounts. The energy efficiency is 250,000 and the renewable energy systems is 500,000. Full disclosure, unfortunately, we don't have those kinds of funds. So we don't usually see projects that large that would most likely wipe out our entire state allocation. But if we'll accept them and we'll score them accordingly and go from there. The loan, the maximum is 25 million also, but it cannot be more than 75% of the total project cost. So no matter what, that entity will have to get 25% funding from another source. This is Shimmer Ford up in Peru. They installed LED lights inside and outside. And this project, the grant was for $19,500, but what it did was it it's supposed to reduce their energy use by 79%. So, and I misspoke, actually, it's the LED lights are supposed to save them $19,500. That was not the grant amount. So that's a good example. We don't think about swapping out old lights in warehouses or factories, those sorts of things, is how large of an energy savings they could see by doing that. But This was a great example. I believe it's the second car dealership that we've been able to work with in the last few years. This is Vanguard Grain in Longview. They received a REAP grant for that tall tower dryer you see there in the middle between those two bins. This new dryer system is anticipated to save them 58% of their annual kilowatt hours that they use, and just under $10,000 in their utility bills. That savings, we calculate them on every single project that we do, but they're saving enough energy to power 29 homes. So when you put it in real terms like that, that's a large amount of power that this company's saving every year. Here is a car wash that we did. You can see that they put solar on their roof. This was an 11 kilowatt solar array, and it is replacing over 15,000 of kilowatt hours each year for this grantee. We've done another car wash in the past, and the previous car wash we did, they also installed solar thermal to help save energy on the water too. The next program is the one that I actually opened with. That was that IHI Turbo project on my first screen. The Rural Economic Development Loan and Grant Program, we'll call it Red Leg. It is a pass-through loan with 0% interest on a 10-year term. USDA lends the money to electric co-ops, telephone co-ops, or municipalities that distribute electric to their citizens. And then they relend that money to an eligible ultimate recipient at that 0% for 10 years. Right now, the maximum loan amount is $1.5 million. There is a grant component to this program as well. The grant is only to that intermediary that I mentioned there in the second bullet. And then that intermediary has to match that grant that they apply for. What that does is we do have an initial recipient that we lend that money out to. They pay that back, and then that starts a revolving loan fund. So then those intermediaries can start relending on a continual basis to businesses in their area. The next deadline for this program is March the 31st. And then after that, it would be June the 30th. And I apologize, I failed to mention the REAP program deadline. It is actually March the 31st also. This is the City of Geneseo and Hammond Henry Hospital. This was actually the very first municipality that applied to become eligible under this program to relend money. They relent $1 million at 0% to the hospital to expand and renovate their current ER. The hospital, I would assume, is probably one of the bigger employers in the area. They employ over 300 people in that town. This project here, this is one of my favorites because it's a good example of a cooperative helping another cooperative. Clay Electric, which is an electric co-op in Flora, relent $1 million to Wabash Telephone in Louisville. They're all located in the same county. Wabash Telephone is their main business model now. They do provide phone and telephone services, but they're really engaged in fiber installation. So they constructed a new office building because they had outgrown their old. They built this facility and connected it to their current warehouse. And the reason they've outgrown their facility is because their customer base since 2015 has increased by 165%. So they have actually increased their employment from 52 people to 127 in 5 to 6 years. So it's a good story. They've really deployed a lot of fiber to the Southern Illinois area. The Rural Business Development Grant Program. This is one that I'm sure many of you on here are familiar with. It's a grant program to public bodies, nonprofit corporations, and colleges, universities. What they do is they apply for these grant funds to help small and emerging businesses in the rural area. So it's not a direct grant to the business. It's to those entities that I mentioned, but the point is to help those businesses expand. The next deadline is coming up. It's February the 28th. And one eligible project is to start a revolving loan fund. And I just made note of that down here for no confusion. Those grant funds, if you do apply to start that RLF, they cannot be passed on through directly to a small business. They have to be relent at an interest rate. So this is a project down in Murfreesboro, and I haven't been to Murfreesboro in a few years, but they seem to have figured out how to revitalize their downtown, and this is a good example. They applied for a $60,000 grant. The city did, to purchase awnings. And what they are doing is they are actually leasing these awnings to the businesses in the small town. And you can see here, it really makes a big difference to the eye, you know, when you're walking in the downtown area and to walk into a store. The other great thing about this project here is the awning company was local, and it has generated so much business for that awning company that they had to find a new building because they ran out of space. So the subsequent year, the Southern Illinois Airport Authority applied for a RBDG grant to expand a building. And now this awning company is leasing that building. So it's kind of a twofold success story here with this project. Another popular program that we have is the Value-Added Producer Grant. This is for ag producers who are engaged in producing a commodity and then turning that commodity into a bio-based type of product or something that's value-added, cheese to wine, milk to cheese. So funds can be used for working capital, planning activities, feasibility studies, not for equipment type purchases or anything infrastructure wise. We don't yet know when the deadline is going to be. I think they'll announce it soon, but we do know that there will be a 60-day application window. So it's a pretty intense application process. So usually our grantees are pretty aware and ready to start the paperwork once they know. This is a project we did a few years ago. Last year. They've actually received a couple of value-added grants. In 2021, they received a $250,000 grant for working capital, and this was to expand their market. So even though they'd already received a grant, they were looking at expanding their market, so they were eligible again. And they distill a variety of spirits. As you can see, I have a picture there. They do lemon drop flavored whiskey. There's peach vodka there, bourbon whiskey, gin. And then they grow at least half of the commodity to make these liquors. They grow them themselves, but then they also source apples and peaches from Eckert's farm there locally too. So this is always a fun project to talk about. That is the last example I have. And as you can see, I mentioned that I had all the other programs listed. So when you do get the PowerPoint, please know these are hyperlinked. There's 3 pages of them. I will not go through all of them, but there's some really good programs within business programs for a vast variety of uses. And then we do have some pending ones coming up for meat processing. So I would say stay tuned for those. If you are engaged or know people who are engaged in processing of meat and poultry, our website, USDA.gov/meat, has all of our open programs specifically for this purpose, and then pending programs. So it's a good source for anyone to look at. There is my contact information. There are 2 other folks within the state that work with business programs. So if you call me and I can't get to you as quickly as I would like to, I will we'll let Matt Harris and/or Callie Heidbreeder know, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary. I really appreciate that. I've been writing down all sorts of notes thinking, oh, I can call this for that or that for this, or direct you to some others. And it's really exciting. Thank you. And I'm excited about Jonathan's and Galen's as well. Let's have Mike Wallace, Mike from USDA Rural Development. Mike is director of the community programs in the state. If you could tell us a little bit about yours, and I'm looking forward to seeing more resources I can direct to our clients. Michael.
All right, thank you, Robin. Appreciate giving me some time to talk about a few of our programs also. Can you see the slides?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right, well, let me do this.
Well, Mary, can you see them?
I
Jonathan?
cannot see them.
Sorry?
I can't see them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Mike, if you want to email it to me, I'll let you go ahead and start, then I can pull it up for you.
well, I'll tell you what, I may do it the old fashioned way too. I will just go through the slides and tell you about it, and we'll go from there. I appreciate some time here, Robin. Like I said, my name's Mike Wallace. I'm the Community Programs Director. Our Community Program Division is another piece of what rural development provides as far as funding. We cover primarily our water and waste disposal programs, which we can provide clean, reliable drinking water systems, funding for those programs, funding for sanitary sewage disposal, and also funding for stormwater drainage. In addition, we have our community facility program, which is one of our broadest programs, which basically we can provide funding for about any project where we're looking at essential, community facilities to provide needed services to the public. What can we offer? We have direct loans, we have grants, and we have loan guarantees. And as Mary explained with her programs, the loan guarantees is where a private lender comes in and they come to the government to get up to an 80% guarantee on that loan, which allows local lenders to work with communities and other entities on these public projects. We have competitive low fixed interest rates, which is nice in where we see a lot of variable rates and a lot of other things out there. We're able to do that. We have a 3-tiered system for our water and waste programs. We have longer loan terms. We can go up to 40 years for our financing, which allows customers to keep the payments as reasonable as possible while they're growing and going through other things. We provide technical assistance. We have staff located around the state where you can come talk to us about your projects. We can come meet with you. At least we could in the old days. Hopefully we're able to start doing that soon again. We have experienced staff, and we also provide partnerships. We are working, we work with different entities where we're able to provide, draw people together, draw entities together to try to help finance some of these projects. Who might be eligible? Public bodies. We work with counties, townships, cities, special purpose districts. That could be anything from water districts, sewer districts, could be fire districts, library districts, port districts. A lot of different entities are eligible for that. Not-for-profit corporations and also Indian tribes. As Mary also mentioned, that we have population limits, what are considered rural for our communities. For our water and waste programs, we can go into communities up to 10,000 population, or we can go into rural areas. For our community facility program, we can go into communities of up to 20,000 population. And for our guarantee programs, we can go into communities up to 50,000. Our water and waste program, basically we can provide funds can be used for new construction. They can be used for improvements, renovations, replacements, extensions. It can also include engineering costs, legal fees, basically anything that is a project related cost we can cover in these programs. It might be land, it might be equipment, interest during constructions, things like that. Typical projects for a water and waste, we see everything from water sewer line replacement, treatment plants, replacement treatment plants, new treatment plants, new storage tanks. It could be extensions for rural water systems to serve new users. We've worked a lot with regional water suppliers over the last 20, 30 years. We have a few new ones that are in the process of developing right now that we're assisting. So again, we can do a lot of different things with our program. As far as funding, basically funding, we can fund anything from under $100,000. We've used small loans to maybe match a CDBG grant from the state, or our largest project over the last several years has been $66 million. So probably a typical project size for water and waste is usually $2 to $4 million, which, you know, for small communities, that's a large project. But, you know, infrastructure, especially now, is very expensive to install. Grant funds, people are always interested in grant funding. We do have grant funds available, and what we do is we look at how to structure your financing package, and grant funds are used to keep your user cost as reasonable as possible. Funding is not available to where we can give everybody maximum grant all the time, but we do try to spread the money out as much as possible and to be as fair as possible. But basically, if you have neighbors who are paying $30, $40 for water and you're paying $20, there probably will be some loan money involved to get user costs up before we can provide grant. But we do have, you know, that available in our different funding packages. And the other thing is we can partner with almost any kind of private lender or state, other governmental funds, local funds, whatever. So we want to try to maximize as much as we can these large projects and maximize the, you know, the federal funds that are involved. Just as an example, last year nationally, they provided over $2 billion nationally in our water and waste disposal programs. So nationally, we did a very good job of getting the money out. I think in Illinois, we provided over 180% of our initial allocation. So we start with some funding nationally, and we're able to go back and get additional funds as needed as we can, and as we're getting applications in. So that's why we're always encouraging people to get their applications in. Just a few examples, you know, upgrade water plants. If you talk to any of these small communities, many of them have infrastructure that is aging, that, you know, was put in 50, 60, 70 years ago. Could be material that is outdated, wearing out. We're working with a lot of communities in replacing their infrastructure systems. You know, water plants, sewer plants are wearing out. Water towers, like I said, you know, collection lines. Illinois has a lot of rural water systems around the state, and we're probably one of the prime funders for rural water out there as far as getting infrastructure out to the rural areas. Upgrading telemetry systems, new meters, things like that. We also have a grant program for emergency water repairs, and these are for water infrastructure that's been damaged by natural disasters. And this is a 100% grant program. We can go up to $150,000 for basic repairs and up to $1 million grant for replacement or repairs of main water source, water treatment, water storage, those type of items. So that's a very good program. Again, just, you know, we've been able to assist with a lot of different purposes out there for water programs. Then moving on to our community facility program. Again, like I said, this is one of our broadest programs. Eligible entities also are public bodies, not-for-profit corporations, and special purpose districts. As I mentioned earlier, we can go into communities of up to 20,000. The main purposes for this program are healthcare, public safety, public and community services. So basically anything that's run on a not-for-profit or public basis that benefits the public is likely eligible for our community facility program. Funds can be used for many things, including construction, enlargement, renovation, improvements. It could be equipment. It could be HVAC systems. Could be vehicles, professional fees that go along with these projects. Again, we have direct loans, we have guaranteed loans, and we have a grant program. The last couple of years, we've had over $3 million for disaster grants, where we've been able to provide additional community facility grants on the western side of the state. And this year, we're in the process of providing up to $7 million in emergency rural healthcare grants to a number of hospitals and food banks. And actually, we received probably 2.5 times the number of applications as we got in funding this year. But we're in the process of providing some grants to those needed entities. Again, just some examples. Healthcare projects could be hospitals, clinics, nursing homes, mental health centers, doctors' offices, assisted living facilities, public community services, everything from courthouses, city halls, libraries, childcare, sheltered workshops, community centers, senior centers, public food centers, streets improvements, education are all eligible purposes. Public safety, we've done things from ambulances, fire trucks, police and fire stations, early warning systems, public safety equipment, communication equipment. So again, a lot of different purposes. A lot of funding has been available out there for these purposes, primarily for the public use. For this fiscal year, basically most of our core programs, we accept applications year-round. There's a few national programs where they do run similar to Mary's programs, where they have a application period, but primarily for our water and waste disposal and most of our community facility programs, we accept applications year-round. We fund applications usually the same year we receive them. We have received a larger amount of water and waste and community facility loan funds the last few years, so we've been able to fund more projects.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
I'm sorry to do this. Can you wrap it up in another minute or so, and we'll
That's all I
squeeze
got. Yep.
Okay, and I need to apologize. I was trying to be real slick, and I opened your PowerPoint presentation. I tried to slide in, but I just managed to confuse a bunch of people. I will make sure that the PowerPoint is amended to the to this video and to the materials, so that people who want to get the information from the PowerPoint. We had a couple questions. One was can you use the REAP to build solar arrays?
Yes, you can. I guess my question would be for what purpose, but most likely that would be eligible, assuming it's an eligible entity that is applying.
Okay. All right. And secondly, I have a question for Jonathan. Let's see if I can get to it here. I'm sorry. Okay. Are there plans to revamp the Illinois WorkNet grant for talented development to drop the requirements to pay an hourly rate for participants? It limited our high school ACC program from, let me see.
So I'm
from submitting a program grant.
Just to jump in, Robin, I'm assuming they're talking about the WIOA funds through the LWIAs across the state and the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, and how those dollars can be used and match. Is that what they're getting at, or are they talking about something separately?
That was the one, Jonathan. Yeah, I don't know if that's tied to you or not.
So just in general, am I correct on that one though, Bill?
Yeah, that's the exact grant we're looking at.
So we've definitely heard concerns here, and I know that currently this is in Congress to be reauthorized. The state really doesn't necessarily control that, given these are formula grants that are managed based on DOL regulations. However, I think, this is one definitely for you to kind of converse and talk to with your members of Congress. We do know that these funds can be restrictive, and we've struggled to get these dollars out. I think from a state perspective, that's why we are looking at rolling out JTED and rolling out apprenticeship programs. We put out a ton of money for apprenticeship navigators, as well as to help businesses establish apprenticeships, in addition to us having our apprenticeship tax credit. And so, in a lot of ways, part of this is it's not an either or, it's an and, right? So between, potential ETIP dollars to JTED dollars to apprenticeships, as well as, some of the on-the-job training dollars and incumbent worker training dollars, I do think we can thread that needle there. But Bill, if there's thoughts you have, I would encourage you to share with your members of Congress, but also share with us. And we're happy to send that to our federal team as well. But I do know that that's why the state is responding, because we've heard this feedback, and hopefully Congress can, find ways to make these dollars more flexible.